Have you ever sat there knowing exactly what you should be doing and still couldn't make yourself do it? Not because you're lazy and not because you don't care, but because the motivation just isn't there anymore. And the things that used to excite you feel heavy now, and the goals that once mattered to you don't move you anymore. And this causes you to start wondering why everyone else seems to be able to stay consistent while you're struggling just to find the energy to begin. But the good news is that in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what's going on here and how to actually find your motivation again so that you don't have to try to make yourself do things from a place of no motivation. If all of this describes you, then this video is for you, because I'm going to share with you exactly what's going on that's sapping your energy, and I'm going to teach you how to resolve this issue at the root so that you can actually find the energy to be consistently motivated towards your goals. So really, the reason why you're in this pattern of lack of motivation is because you lack what I call motivational fuel. And so to describe what motivational fuel is, I want to explain to you the difference between positive motivation and negative motivation. So when you have positive motivation, you're trying to move towards something that you believe will make you feel good. When you have negative motivation, you're trying to move toward or away from something in order to get away from something that makes you feel bad. So this is a very simple way of saying you're either trying to move towards good feelings or you're trying to move away from bad feelings. And so to explain this concept, consider this metaphor. So let's say that you have two horse-drawn carriages. And with one of the horse-drawn carriages, the driver has a stick with a carrot on it that it puts out in front of the horse, and the horse moves forward to try to get the carrot. And that's positive motivation. Then with the other horse-drawn carriage, the driver has a whip, and the horse moves forward in order to get away from the whip. And that's negative motivation. So in both of these cases, the horses are moving in the same exact direction. They might be moving towards the same exact destination, in fact, but one moves forward to go towards something that feels good, and the other goes towards something in order to get away from a bad feeling. And so in order to have motivational fuel, you have to have positive feelings that you're trying to move toward, and ideally you mostly use that as your motivational fuel. But also in a pinch, you can also use negative motivational fuel, even though it's unsustainable to use over the long run. Now within these two categories of positive and negative motivation, there are actually 4 subcategories of motivation. And I call these end goal motivational motors. And why I call them that is because they're the main motors of our motivation. They move us forward towards our goals. And that type of motivation is specifically about the end goal. So it's nothing that's used as a means to an end, but it's the actual end in itself that you're looking for. And 2 of these end goal motivational motors are in the positive motivation category, and 2 are in the negative motivation category, even though one of them looks like it would be in the positive motivation category. So I'm going to talk about the positive motivation ones first, because these are the ones that I want you to focus the most on in order to get yourself motivated again. So the first motor is process-based end goal motivation. And the second motor is product or outcome-based end goal motivation. And with process-based motivation, you're actually motivated towards doing the thing itself because the thing is just enjoyable to do. The process of it feels good and rewarding. And this is the motivating force that drives children to play. It's also what drives you to eat a delicious meal or to go out and want to travel and experience all kinds of fun things. And so it's all about fun and enjoyment and fulfillment in the process itself. Now, product or outcome-based end goal motivation is all about the direct motivation to get to the outcome itself as an end goal. For example, let's say that somebody really wants to cure cancer, and so they put their entire life's work to try to cure cancer, and it's all about just getting to that outcome in and of itself. Or let's say that you have a painter that's outcome oriented. What they're motivated toward is the end goal. They want actually to have maybe a painting to hang up on their wall. Contrast this with a more process-oriented painter who doesn't necessarily look forward to having the painting to hang up on their wall, but just really enjoys the process of creating the painting. And so process and product-based motivational fuel is what you need to motivate yourself in a way that remains sustainable. And it's a strong possibility that if you feel unmotivated right now, you are very much disconnected from process and product-based motivation, and you're instead operating yourself off of the 2 other motivational motors. Now, if all of this is resonating with you so far, and you would like to learn more about how to be more consistently motivated towards your goals, then I highly recommend checking out my free webinar, 3 Shadow Work Secrets to Get Out of Your Own Way and Reach Your Full Potential Without Having to Fight Yourself. And the link is down below in the description box. Now, the other two end goal motivational motors that I don't recommend that you use because they're not sustainable and they can cause other issues is what I call identity motivation and then just negative motivation or avoidance of negative outcomes in general. So let's talk about identity motivation and why it's an issue. Now, one of the things I would first say is that identity is a great means, but a terrible end. And so we're talking about end goal motivations, not about means. So if you use identity as a means to which you achieve your process and product-based motivational goals, that is excellent. For example, in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, he explains how powerful identity creation can be or identity change can be in actually cementing new habits. But the end goal there is to actually cement the new habits, not just to have the identity. One example that he gave in the book is if somebody is trying to quit smoking and they have the story in their head, oh, I'm trying to quit smoking, then that's not going to be the most effective. Instead, if they start identifying as a non-smoker, they're a lot more likely to be able to stop smoking. And so there's no issue at all with using identity as a means to another end. However, if you try to motivate yourself toward your goals in hopes of perfecting your identity in some way or trying to achieve some kind of ideal identity, there are some major issues that come up from that. And the number one issue is that it creates unstable identity. And it gives you the sense that in order for you to accept yourself, you have to hit a certain bar or a certain standard. And this creates an unstable identity that feels like a house of cards that can fall down with any time that you fail at the tasks you set out to succeed at. For example, if I'm trying to build an identity of being a successful person just for the sake of building the identity of the successful person so that I can like myself and so that I can love myself, then what's going to happen is if I experience any kind of failure, that's going to threaten my identity that I'm trying to create. And we as human beings need a high degree of homeostasis when it comes to the way that we think about ourselves. And so when that happens, it creates a lot of anxiety and we're always hyper vigilant about, oh, am I matching up to the standard that I'm trying to achieve for my identity? And this is quite a bit different from telling yourself, oh, I'm the non-smoker in order to stop smoking. Instead, it's in order for me to like myself and to care about myself and be invested in myself, I have to hit this bar right here. And the main way to stabilize your identity is to mostly identify with things that come naturally to you, that you don't need to work every single day to prove to yourself that you are that. And identity motivation on the surface can seem like it's a positive motivational fuel source, but instead it's actually a negative motivational fuel source because oftentimes people end up adopting identity-based motivation in order to get away from shame. And the dynamic that creates shame for us is us saying, okay, I can love and accept myself if I'm like this, but I can't love and accept myself if I'm like that. And we put our sense of validation contingent upon that which we can achieve or that which we can match up to as a standard. And so it's only you that can validate yourself or invalidate yourself. And so if you're making that something highly conditioned upon matching up to a certain identity, that already opens up the door to shame, even if it's something that you're totally matching up to. Even if you matched up to it 100%, you're still going to be dealing with shame from that. So if you find yourself mostly being identity motivated, you'll especially want to shift your motivation over to process and product-based motivation. And instead of thinking about it as like, oh, I need to perfect myself or I need to change myself or purify myself or improve myself, instead think about, oh, what are the fun experiences that I want to have from this? Or, oh, what are the cool outcomes that I want to produce from this? Now, if you would like some help reconnecting to your process and product-based motivation, then I highly recommend putting in an application down below in the description box to work with me. I have a program that helps people do just that. Now, I was once working with a client who had a lot of identity-based motivation, and we were looking to get him shifted over to being more process and product-oriented. And he brought up the concern that if he stops being identity motivated, is he going to be able to find any kind of motivation at all? And this is a very important thing to keep in mind because anytime you shift from one source of fuel for your motivation to another source of fuel, you might experience motivational dips during that process. And he gave a great analogy to real life for this dilemma. So imagine that identity motivation is like a problematic fuel source, like it's like coal that pollutes the environment, or it's like fossil fuels. And it is true that it's a limited resource. You can't actually motivate yourself that way for very long, at least not without burning yourself out. But when it's the case that it's difficult to connect to process and product-based motivation purely outside of your identity, it can feel like, well, there's no other fuel source currently available, so I have to stick to what is for now. And while you're in the process of shifting from identity-based motivation to process and product-based motivation, you might potentially have to rely on old fuel sources as you go along. And so this process can be like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But the main point is that you're making progress towards a more sustainable fuel source for your motivation. So when you're making this shift, don't expect it to happen overnight. You're going to have to migrate your way gradually over to those more sustainable sources of motivation in process and product-based motivation. Now, the fourth end goal motivational motor is just negative motivation in general, just trying to avoid unwanted circumstances. And the main issue with this one is that going away from what you don't want isn't the same thing as going toward what it is that you do want. And so if you're mostly motivated by trying to put out fires and getting away from what's unwanted, you might actually choose like jobs, relationships, lifestyles, etc. that don't actually fit with you at all. And sometimes the things that we're going toward that look like positive motivation are actually coming from negative motivation and trying to get away from unwanted circumstances. So this one can be extra sneaky. So some examples of this would be working a job so that you don't get fired and deal with all kinds of financial stress and homelessness. Another example would be getting into a relationship so that you're not alone. Yet another example is trying to be a people pleaser to avoid disconnection with the people around you. And so this type of motivation can really get you misaligned from what I call the truest, deepest will. And the truest, deepest will is what it is that you want in your heart of hearts. And ultimately, identity motivation is also a form of negative motivation itself. We're so busy trying to build the perfect identity to get away from shame that we actually lose sight of what it is that we really truly want in terms of our process and product-based motivation. And what it is that we really want is always in the process and the product. So to recap those 4 motors of motivation, on the positive side, we have process and product-based motivation. And on the more negative side, we have identity and just negative motivation in general. And so to demonstrate the difference, I'm going to use the same exact scenario in order to compare them. So let's say that I'm a painter and I'm process motivated. Well, if I'm process motivated, I just really love the process of painting. Painting just feels so good. Now, if I'm a painter and I'm product motivated, it's like, oh, I really want to be able to see the outcome and I'm going to have this cool painting to hang on my wall afterward. And if I'm a painter and I'm identity motivated, it's like, oh, I really want the identity of being someone who paints and someone who paints well. And if I don't have that identity, I don't like myself. And if I'm generally negatively motivated toward being a painter, maybe it's like, oh, I need to paint and I need to sell this because if I don't sell my paintings right away, I'm not going to be able to eat. Or maybe I have some belief that I have to paint and I have to produce things, otherwise I'm wasting my life. And so I paint in order to avoid wasting my life. And so if you want to rekindle your spark of inspiration and you want to feel naturally motivated toward what it is that you do, then here's where I recommend beginning. I recommend beginning with process-based motivation. And what you have to do in order to reconnect with process-based motivation is to ask yourself, how do I want to feel? And that's because our feeling state is what actually enables us to enjoy the process of engaging in something. So if I'm process-based, if I have process-based motivation toward painting, then it's because painting makes me feel good. Maybe painting makes me feel really excited. Or maybe I experience little pops of joy while I'm painting. Or maybe it's the case I just like being in that state of flow because flow feels really good. And when you're trying to connect to your favorite feeling states, make sure that it's all about going towards positive feelings and not about moving away from negative feelings. For example, desiring to feel empowered is not the same thing as trying to get away from disempowerment. Or trying to feel joy isn't the same thing as trying to get away from boredom. And the desire to feel happy isn't about trying to go away from sadness. Instead, you want to regard your favorite feeling states a lot like you would regard your favorite foods. So you like your favorite foods not because they're the absence of a bad flavor, but because they're the presence of a good flavor. And to figure out what your favorite feeling states are, you can even revisit past memories where you felt really good. And those positive feelings that you felt back then, you can start thinking about what are the types of things that you can do to reconnect to those feelings now. And that's going to give you positive motivational fuel for your process-based end goal motivational motor. And if you'd like to get even more clarity about what it is that you really want on the level of process and product-based motivation, I highly recommend checking out this video right here.